And this is why the Myles Turner thing becomes more and more interesting. Let me take everybody back over the last week and a half. What's happened? What's gone down with Myles Turner? About a week and a half ago, Dan Wyke of the LA Times was on the show. And Dan Wyke kind of casually mentioned Myles Turner. And then I jumped in and I'm like, yeah, Dan, but I don't know. I mean, look at the way the Indiana Pacers are playing. They're top 5, top 6 in the Eastern Conference. Are they really going to go? And they're playing good ball. They're starting to play some good basketball. Are they really going to trade Myles Turner at this stage? He's an important player for them. I think he's 15, 7, and 2, 15 points a game, 7 rebounds, and about 2 block shots a game. Would they really consider trading him at this stage of the season? I mean, wouldn't Pacer fans be upset? All that stuff, okay? All right, then maybe a week goes by, over the weekend, actually. There's an article out there. Jovan Buha had a quote. And Jovan's quote was, they could potentially, because of the contract situation of Myles Turner, they could potentially look to move him. All right, now there's 2 guys. And then this morning, I'm reading this article from Bobby Marks, and now Bobby Marks is mentioned. We're going to go kind of walk through this together. The only reason why they would do this, okay, it says Indiana Pacers, keep an eye on Myles Turner and Obi Toppin. The only reason why they do this, I'm going to kind of forward, or I'm going to go a little bit further down. Starting center Myles Turner is a free agent, along with one of their other players who's eligible for a rookie extension. Not including Turner in their first-round pick, the Pacers will be $20 million below the luxury tax in July. The following season, they are $37 million below the tax without Turner and without Mathurin. If both players are signed, the Pacers, barring a trade, could be luxury tax teams in consecutive seasons. All right, so this is all about the apron and everything else. Let's just forward here. The third is to shed the $45 million owed to Obi Toppin. One trade that works. This is the third person now that's mentioned Myles Turner and the Los Angeles Lakers. All right, one trade that works. This is only if the Indiana Pacers are saying, we don't want to pay Myles Turner at the end of the season, and they don't want to lose him for nothing if he decides to walk away. He's a complete free agent, unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. So their thought process is there's 3 different things they could do. One thing they could do is say, F it, we're going to play out the rest of the season. We're going to give our fans a first-round exit, because that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, if you're the Indiana Pacers, are you beating the Knicks in the 7-game set? Are you beating the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers? Depending on Orlando, maybe that's the matchup that you get, and Orlando hasn't been all that healthy. Maybe that's the one that you're looking for. But you're basically saying we're going to win a round, we're not going to win a round, and then it's over. We keep Myles Turner for that. That's one scenario. The second scenario is trade Myles Turner right now and, take your chances and just get as much assets as you can. And the third scenario is you take your chances of trying to extend him in the offseason. Okay, here's the trade that Bobby Marks has mentioned. Guys, I know I've mentioned this a lot of different times, and, I think some Laker fans, I don't think there's too many Laker fans that would be, incredibly upset if Rui Hachimura is not part of the team, but I keep mentioning Rui. There's a reason why I keep mentioning Rui. I mentioned Rui Hachimura because his contract is about $17 million a year. You just got Jared Vanderbilt back. You traded for Dorian Finney-Smith. There are now players that can play the role of Rui Hachimura. By the way, if you get a guy like Myles Turner, okay, well, what's going to happen if you get a guy like Myles Turner? Now everybody slots down a little bit. Anthony Davis goes from the 5 down to the 4. You got some other guys, obviously, that will now, if they were playing the 4, they're going to play the 3. However you want to put LeBron, however you want to kind of figure out the rest of the starting lineup, I know there would be changes that come with all that. So a lot of those guys maybe now are coming off the bench. But the point that I'm trying to make is, here is the trade scenario that they're putting out there. You use one of your first rounders, which we know the quote that's been out there that Rob Pelinka's had, obviously for years now. Use one of your first rounders. You use Rui Hachimura. They look like they're trying to get some other, teams involved to kind of make the deal work. And the Lakers would end up with Myles Turner. There are ways to get Myles Turner. There are scenarios out there that are not just the Lakers saying, we need Myles Turner. There's scenarios out there that the Indiana Pacers, they got some questions that they got to ask themselves. I still maintain, if you ask me today, if the Indiana Pacers, if, you're putting their feet under some fire and they're saying, make the trade or don't, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure for them to say, play out the rest of the year with Myles Turner. I think if they weren't playing well, I want to see one thing real quick as far as the standings go. Let's see exactly where they are right now in the standings, just to kind of see what they're, who they would face in the first round. They would face Milwaukee in the first round right now if the playoffs are. I mentioned Orlando. That's right. Orlando's kind of completely going the other way because of all their injuries. But Orlando will be back in the mix if they can be healthy. Your top four right now in the East: Cleveland, Boston, New York, Milwaukee. Do you see Indiana beating Milwaukee in a 7-game set? I don't. But if you're the Indiana Pacers, don't you want just your fan base to feel a certain way? Are you really going to get rid of Myles Turner, who's been a really good player for you? Now, you better know what you're doing, and you got to say that first rounder is so valuable, and we got, obviously a big plan in mind, but I still think it's going to be a challenge to get Myles Turner. Let's pretend that we're sitting here, and remember the trade deadline's February 6th, so it's a week from this Thursday. Let's pretend Myles Turner is traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. I want to play out one other scenario with everybody. Then I'll start looking at the comments. What does it then do to this Lakers team? All right. Let's just play out the exact trade that he mentioned. Rui is out. Jalen Hood-Schifino is out. 1 first-rounder is out. Okay. Myles Turner now becomes your center at your 5. Can I give you guys a quick stat here? There was an article that I read this morning, too. It was on ESPN as well. It's making the case for what Anthony Davis wants. The Lakers are allowing the 3rd most points in the paint this year in the NBA. 5th most in second chance points in the NBA. AD has played center 96% of the time this season. In that championship run that the Lakers had in 2019-2020 season where Dwight Howard was there and JaVale McGee, he played 40% of his time at center. So he's playing this year, 96% of his time is played at the center spot. The year they won a championship, he played the center spot 40% of the time. So it just shows you how drastic the difference is. And for those who don't think the Lakers need another big or this type of a player, the stats again, right now the Lakers are allowing 3rd most points in the paint in the NBA, 5th most in second chance points. Okay. I think some of that stuff will get cleaned up with Jared Vanderbilt. I think that's going to help him. But I think the idea and the concept is what I'm talking about. Let's say the Lakers make the trade for Myles Turner. Here's your starting lineup now. Myles Turner is at the 5. Anthony Davis is at the 4. LeBron is at the 3. Let's keep 1 and 2 the exact same. Max Christie and Austin Reeves is your backcourt. That's your starting 5. Let's just play that one out. Let's keep it right there. Now, I think there's going to be bigger games, or maybe if you get into the playoffs, I think JJ Redick would experiment a little bit and say, okay, if I take Max Christie out because of his lack of experience, let me throw Dorian Finney-Smith into that starting lineup. I think the Lakers should consider that, especially if they make that trade for Myles Turner. Or some people might make the case, no, put Vando there, but you could see the options that you have. Let's just pretend it's Max Christie in the starting lineup. Now, all of a sudden, your bench, you got Dorian Finney-Smith. You got Gabe Vincent. You got Jackson Hayes still. You got Jared Vanderbilt still. Obviously, Dalton Knecht is there as well. Who am I missing on that Lakers roster? Am I missing somebody? I think I got everybody. That starting 5 and basically your first 7, 8 guys, it's a pretty good roster right there. And if you're looking at a Lakers team, I think I got everybody. If you want to go really, really deep down and you're talking about Shake Milton or something along those lines, I guess you could throw that. Will the Lakers use Cam Reddish? I mean, they haven't really been using him at all. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you look at the Western Conference right now, let's say you took the best 5 on that Lakers roster versus the best 5 of some of these other teams out there. Myles Turner, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Austin Reeves. I put DFS in there or Jared Vanderbilt. If you're saying give me your best 5. Some people will make a case for Max Christie. That's fine. You can make that case. For me, it has more to do with experience. But that also shows you how much more Max Christie has contributed this year to even be in that conversation. So those are good problems to have where you're like, no, I would put that guy in. No, I put that guy in. Guys, that's a real starting 5. It's a real starting five. That's a starting five that's got some nice balance. I don't know if you guys know this about Myles Turner as well. He's close to 40% from the three-point line as well. So it's not like Myles Turner is just clogging the middle and then Anthony Davis can't do work. You got to respect his jumper from the outside. So listen, is something imminent, right? Is something going down in the next day or two where it's like, hey, Lakers are going to get Myles Turner? No, that's not the case. But it's now the third different person in this last week and a half that's saying, keep an eye on the Indiana Pacers and Myles Turner. Of all the names that we've mentioned, Jakob Poeltl, Jonas Valanciunas, Robert Williams, Walker Kessler, any big that you could think of that's been associated with the Lakers over the course of this last, let's call it 2.5, 3 weeks. None fits better, would be more prepared for a playoff run, has the proper experience, can complement Anthony Davis more than Myles Turner, period. Like, I don't even think this is a case. I don't think there's a question mark that comes into that. I just think I think it's interesting. Again, I'm going to emphasize this because it will take a lot for Myles Turner to become a Laker. It will take a lot for him to be available in the market. And it's all going to start with the Indiana Pacers saying to themselves, all right, do we want to take this team that's actually playing well? They've won 8 of their last 10 games. That's part of my hesitation too. Usually you see teams start selling when they start going this way, right? And most franchises, they don't stop momentum. Most franchises will do anything they can to sell some tickets and kind of convince their fan base like, hey, look, we're pretty good. Hey, we're not bad. So that's going to be the challenge that comes with it. All right, if you enjoyed this clip and you want more, just subscribe to the channel. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the Sliwa Show. And then after every Lakers game, post-game show right here.